lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Righteous Force and Chocolate Sane in G+, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Well, considering that very few people here today, that was probably the most enthusiastic start we've had for a while, so excellent. With probably the most limited views we've ever had, a great start to the show. Any signs of physical Earth curve edges?
Not from the Tetons.
No. None of that.
Not in Oklahoma.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
If there was, we'd know it.
Any evidence of the distance to the Sun? Hello, Owen.
Lou?
Hello.
You missed the question. Repeat it.
Oh,
Any
I
evidence?
just came in.
Any evidence of the distance to the Sun?
Oh, yeah, it's over there. It's clearly visible right there.
Distance to the Sun?
Yeah, well, how can you even try that out? It like keeps moving, every time you try to approach. So I think the only distance the sun really has is an apparent one.
A not actual one. That's very useful.
Almost actual.
Yeah, that guy's never going to live that down.
Almost.
My tape measure only goes 100 feet.
That's probably not going to do it.
Yeah. Almost.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
My daughter's first birthday a couple of days ago, so there's helium balloons everywhere. Just by coincidence. Shout out to Good Servant for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Subscribe today to Good Servant.
So what happened with those helium balloons at your daughter's first birthday?
Well, they were tied down. They were like, I'd anchored them with a little weight, a 1 and 3 other balloons around it, and I came in this morning and they were all on the ceiling. I don't really know what happened. Maybe entropy took a hold of the knot. In any event, they're all on the ceiling now.
Those rebel gas particles?
Yep.
Well, gravity is not a force, it's an effect, even though we are allowed to think of it as a force, although I don't see any use for that other than to assist in surreal thought experiments about the nature of our realm. So, yeah, just an effect.
It is just an effect, and to be fair, it doesn't even make the top 3. But we'll get into that after the housekeeping. Oh, I've got to shout out my playlist that's done, housekeeping playlist. I'll do that at the end. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope. Limited what they can do.
Hey, Elijah.
They can think of it as science, though. No.
Absolutely not. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Any evidence
What
of a
up,
se-
Eli?
any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Good morning, Paul Hall.
Hello.
Hello.
No such thing, Nathan. Another made up.
I do get hungry every time you say that.
Yummy molten iron core.
Oh, it sounds like the Tootsie Roll commercial.
The iron, you know, it's molten iron or like strawberry filling or something, you know. Just, yeah.
You know what my
Sounds-
favourite rebuttal to that
The
is?
ball is just completely abandoned.
They've completely abandoned it. Did you say, Elijah? Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, since I've been watching your show, which is at least a year more now, I've never heard anyone try to address the core. That's sad.
The best rebuttal is like a commenter coming along going, "Look at this textbook. It says it's a solid core." I love that. That's my favourite reply. Oh yeah. So you got evidence of that solid core, have you? That solid self-perpetuating core. I love it.
Well, how'd they come up with that?
I did the same bullshit as how they come up with the molten iron core. Does it matter? It's just a bullshit story. But changing the story and saying, look, the textbook says solid. All right. And what's it basing that on? You know what I mean?
I thought something hit the earth and deposited something.
Oh, you want the story of Thea? Has anybody got
Yeah.
the Star Wars music to hand? Just as an intro. No, that's the Darth Vader march. That'll do.
Not the Empire.
that's the Empire March or whatever it's called.
Evil Empire.
Perfect. A long time ago in a galaxy not so far away, there was this small planet, not about maybe half the size of what the Earth currently is, and that small planet was called Thea, and Thea was happily on a sun-centric orbital system like the Earth, but little did the fledgling smaller Earth know that this planetoid was on a collision course with Earth. And one day, with a glancing blow, Thea struck Earth. Not enough to destroy the fledgling Earth planet, but only enough to destroy the Thea planet. Its debris being spread out into the regions of gravitational attraction to form itself into the moon. Now, fortunately, this entire process deposited an extra large molten iron core from Thea into the centre of Earth, which then reshaped itself, and the gravitational accretion formed the moon from the debris, which is why the moon and those petrified bits of wood they brought back when they claimed to travel through a second law of thermodynamic sky vacuum to that rock in the sky they claim was formed in this process. That's why it's the same as what we have on Earth, because essentially the moon is Earth. It was formed from a collision a long, long time ago. And that story is 100% true because they made it up themselves, children.
Oh, Uncle Nathan.
Can I
Uncle
respond to
Nathan.
that?
Hang on,
Before you
Uncle
go?
Nathan, tell us about the gas particle story. One more.
No, we're not talking about those now.
Hold on. Let me deal with him,
ruin it,
Arwin,
man.
and then you can have the mic. I'm sorry, 10th man. My fuzzy little friend. That
Arwin,
story about the
stop
rebellious gas
gaslighting.
particles, that will have to wait for another night, children.
No, but I'm just wondering, like, how are they going to model, not science, the physical situation of something crashing into a ball, and then based on R-based gravity idea and all that, blah, 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 overlooking the law of thermodynamics for the gas and all that. And then how would that explosion result, like the shattering of material falling in all directions, and then end up into a moon that is perfectly synchronous with the Earth, always facing the same way forever. How does
explain
that
this.
model?
Didn't you listen? You didn't listen to the end of the story.
Did-
I said
did you
it's
see the
all
cartoon?
true because they made it up themselves.
I don't know, man. I want to see a 3D modeling based
They,
with
they had a
physics and all that.
cartoon of all of this. This
Yeah,
was
I
on
can get you a
History Channel
cartoon.
long
No,
time
but I
ago.
want to see it with physics models. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. No worries.
They can
I
do
can
it.
get. No worries.
They can do
Look,
it.
no worries. I can write at the bottom of it, physics model. No problem.
Now you're thinking like a scientist.
Yeah, you see, Arwen knows the score. Now I'm thinking like Dr. Becky. Right, moving on. Any evidence?
Leave her
Yeah.
alone. She's doing science.
Go on, Neil. Go, Neil. Go. Don't let there be dead air.
I was saying, leave her alone. She's doing science right now.
Yeah, she's typing out an email. Science.
Oh,
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius.
Absolutely not.
Well, at best, they don't have an R. So, I don't know. I don't know what they're
We've
doing
disproved
now.
their model's radius.
At best, the Black Swan disproved Earth-based geometry. At best.
Yeah, it's been from no to absolutely hilariously no in 2020.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, this coronavirus thing has distracted away from the real Black Swan, which is a shame, but that's not an issue as far as I'm concerned. We can get that right back on track. People have just been distracted from the obvious and observable nature of their reality and the lack of globe-based geometry to prove any sphericity. But we can readdress that. The Black Swan has indeed debunked the R value. No longer can they trust in R. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
Here's your moment, 10th man.
no gas pressure without a container. Impossible. I'm just sad that Arwen ruined the Uncle Nathan show. I'll have to wait till tomorrow.
What? But what did your gas thingy have to do with the molten iron core? I didn't see there. Just
Oh, the gas.
Because
Oh,
you want you wanted details when it's a fairy tale, and I wanted another fairy tale before.
Yeah, he wants the story, Arwen. He wants the rebellious gas particles burning their bras at the Kármán line in that whole process. So after Thea smashed into Earth and there's debris flying everywhere, ready to coalesce into the moon with the not actual force bending of pseudo-Ramonian force space conceptual medium, you know, when that all happens, obviously there's not going to be any gas around. It's all been blasted off into space. Forget the fact that it wouldn't have been able to, you know, form pressure in the first place. But from that point, you know, you've got maybe gases being produced at ground level. What do they do when they are produced at ground level and head off into space? At what point do they decide to be those rebellious bra-burning gas particles that decide the entropy laws don't apply to them? And they get to what, I don't know, I'm going to call it the Kármán line. And they say, I'm going to stop right here. Natural law, screw you. And they burn their bras and they stay at the Kármán line. Or maybe change direction or stop altogether. Who knows? Again, that story's to be made up at a later date. Till then, we've just
they're
got natural
falling
law.
perpetually in place because of the bending of space-time. So they're trying to expand, but they actually stay in place because of the equilibrium between the bending of space-time and the gas pressure expansion. Oops, did I just say that?
Fear sells, therefore flat Earth is very scary. Is flat Earth scary? Thanks for the super chat, Cleary. That's a very interesting point you've made there. I don't know. Is flat Earth scary?
Very scary.
Really? Why?
I think
I've been
it's
saying,
terrifying for
I've
some
been saying
people.
that flat Earth is like the reason that people act like it's almost like they know what you're gonna show them and they put blindfolds on and they can sense it. And I think it's fear of actually addressing all of that very first question you got when the teacher told you it was a ball in school and you said, huh? Yeah, you've stopped questioning that for that long. And when you realize, holy shit, that question that didn't get addressed, it scares the living shit out of you. It scared me.
That's not what I mean. I get that. I get that people don't like change. I get that, if your paradigm's going to fundamentally change, that could be scary, the change. But the nature of reality itself, what is outside your window does not change. It's not going to unfold when you realise the obvious and observable nature of our reality. Earth is flat. But when you look out the window having realised that, nothing actually changes. It's only internal. You appreciate something that you were deceived about. But that itself, flat Earth, why would that be scary?
That's a good point. Seeing is that nothing changes physically yet. But I mean, that's the thing, because their minds have been whisked away by the authority. And it's like, it's like not realizing you were scared of spiders. And then all of a sudden you wake up and they're all over your room. You know what I mean? It's like a mental thing, I think.
Sure.
I think I know.
Go on, Neil.
I think because when you start to pay attention to flat Earth, they start to wonder, what else have they lied to me about in school or not told me the truth about? If this is not true, then geez, what else is not true?
Ah, great. I get to plug a video I love plugging. So there's a channel called Haunted House. And on Haunted House's channel, he's got conspiracy cats declaring exactly that. Well, if it was true, then the governments would be lying to me and things of that nature. He also goes into how much sleep he'd be losing, obviously phrased in a manner that makes it seem that could only potentially happen, but he declares his contemplation of these things quite openly. I shouldn't be smiling, but it's priceless. Yeah, they're all absolutely terrified, and yeah, I completely agree with you. But from my point sat here right now, is it liberating? Well, if you like the adventure of not knowing things and you're not too scared that, Big Brother's lying to you left and right, you might have a greater appreciation of that. Eventually you get to the point where you go, well, the whole thing's a bit of a joke, really. At the moment they've shut the world down with a cold. You got to laugh, right? Because it's a joke. So, does that terrify me or liberate me in any way? Nah, I've still got to go and register my car and stuff. It's a real ball ache. So what else are you going to do other than laugh? But the fear that currently is set around people's expectations of the situation that befalls them or the potential future situation that might befall them, that's all I seem to hear about at the moment. So it's like when someone says flat Earth's something to be fearful of, I'm like, hold on a second. I just go, wow, I wonder what the sky is. What's the sun? That's amazing. I have no idea what that is. What a wonderful world of discovery we have before us. That's cool. But scary? No, I don't know. Maybe terrifying for your individual that's content in the fact that he is told everything and nothing's to be figured out. And that sounds quite lazy to me. I don't need to figure anything out. It's all been figured out for me, so I can just sit and not do a thing. But that sounds like a pretty pathetic life by my standards. But who am I to lay down these standards, eh?
Well, actually, between what Neil said and you commented on, it's a pretty good description of how people don't want change. And how can I put it? People don't change because it's uncomfortable to change. And if you bring in flat Earth, it's so uncomfortable because they want this illusion to be real because they're comfortable in the illusion. Oh man, I can't deal with that, so yes. I don't want to talk about it. And so the reason is because they're wired that way. Whereas we're wired the way you just said it. It's like, really? Oh my gosh, there's so much to find out. We're not afraid. We want the illusion exposed. These others, which are the masses, unfortunately, want the illusion.
It's easier to lie to somebody than convince them that they've been lied to. So, for an example, insurance. Your insurance gives you a promise that were the worst to happen, you would be covered. You would have a fallback. And with that in mind, you take the bait from a company that's there to make profit with this idea that you'll be secure should the worst happen. Now, when the worst happens, and you go to your insurance company and they say, ah ha ha, no, we interpret the policy thusly, because we are also the people who will interpret this policy before paying you. Didn't you know that? And you go, well, surely there's a third party that decides what's fair and what isn't. And they go, no, we decide that. We have the underwriters, and we've decided that this doesn't get covered. So, on you, Todd. Go on. Bugger off. And you go, I was under the impression that I was safe and sound when I was paying out my premiums. So you gotta wonder, why would that person be under the impression that they were safe and sound only to find out that they weren't safe and sound? Well, because it's really easy to lie to somebody. But someone like me comes along and says, why are you paying your insurance premiums? If the worst happens, all they're going to do is set their underwriters to task in any way possible not to pay you out. And that person goes, no, their whole purpose is to keep me safe. You go, no, that's just an illusion. That their whole purpose is to keep their, business in good stead. Obviously, there's a limit. Occasionally, they're going to have to pay out. But generally speaking, that's why they've got a whole army of lawyers and underwriters to make sure you don't. But, feel free to continue in your delusions about why you have insurance. I only personally use the ones that are absolutely mandatory. But, feel free to feel protected when the army of lawyers and underwriters aren't going to protect you. Well, you're going to have a lot of effort to try and convince somebody of that, because they've already bought into the idea of protection, and even when they've shown that their protection doesn't come, somebody else around them, who's also deluding themselves of the same level of protection, will tell them that it's their fault. You were an idiot. You didn't read your policy. And you go, well, I did read my policy. I'm really careful about those things. Well, you should sue them then. You're like, what? I thought they were there to protect me. Why am I suing them? But you try and explain this to anybody who's filling out an insurance policy, they'll just ignore you because they want the comforting lie. They don't want the harsh reality of the truth. Well, you're on your own, mate. You might not have any protection. Why don't you just stash that money in a bank account? They're not going to want to hear that. Far from it. So when it comes to things like the nature of reality, you telling somebody, yeah, you've been completely deceived. Yeah, that's actually a religious belief. Yeah, they're not obviously going to overtly state to you that it's a religious belief. Your sun-centric description of a model is just that. You putting the sun at the centre of your world. Well, okay, that's a way of looking at it to understand better in a philosophical way how the stars move. But it doesn't mean that you should reify it because there's lots of pictures of it on a television screen into actually being a spherical surface beneath your feet. That's just a philosophical model. But, also the state religion, well, will they thank you for it? They'll tell you you're an idiot. You haven't read your policy correctly. Right? Nobody wants to be the fool that was lied to. So when you say, oh, no, you've been deceived, they don't want to hear it. Because they're smarter than that. How could they have been deceived? They're too smart.
Right on.
Right. Yeah, and then when they have to confront it, it hurts. And it doesn't quickly go away either. So most people then just, I can't do this. I'm going to go back into the nonsense. Because everybody does that anyway, right? That's, yeah.
Yep.
The Western world now.
I was
Pride,
actually
isn't
the
it?
victim.
Go on, Neil.
I was actually the victim of that in extended warranty for the previous vehicle I had. They got me.
Yeah.
So don't buy into extended warranties.
Right. I used to sell them. My first job, my first real job. I had several jobs before that because as a student to pay my way. But my first job after education was in an electrical retailer, and one of the things we were strongly targeted on was selling basically those policies. Not insurance! Don't tell them it's insurance! Anyway, aside from that, I want to do a couple of plugs. So, I've made a playlist, and it's the first playlist that appears on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, and it is for very shortened, concise housekeeping question and answers. So for each of the, I think there's 8 housekeeping questions, they've been trimmed down to their most concise form just by sort of forced chance, if you will. We went through them very concisely on one of the shows, and all of those have been trimmed out with a little intro and outro and tagged up correctly and put into a playlist. So it's one of those things that I did because I'd been asked so often to do it. Can you just put together very short videos I can share? Nobody wants to see, or nobody I share my videos with wants to see the hour-long show to get the gist of it. Can't you just give me a 3-minute video that picks one thing apart? And you're like, yeah, I'll get to it. I've now gotten to it. I've done it. It's nicely done. I took a long time over each of them, even though they were only short 2 or 3 minute videos. I've gone to a fair amount of effort to actually edit them nicely, present the information with a little visual representation of whatever's being talked about, or an visual example. So I've gone to a fair bit of effort with them, and I want people to share them. I'm not going to lie about it. So check it out. It's on a playlist. It's just called Housekeeping, and there's about 10 or 11 videos in there, I believe. Maybe a couple more, maybe a couple of less, I forget. But with a couple of debates with people going through specifically a couple of aspects of housekeeping questions, because several of them are intertwined with one another, so you can see the questions being thrashed out in debate, along with a concise question and answer in terms of how and why each question gets demolished. The only exception is the molten iron core question, which is just any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. A few grunts and groans, and then 2 or 3 people go, no. It's like, alrighty then, and then there's the outro, which is as much a gag as anything else, because what requirement is there? There's just simply no evidence for it. So beyond that, though, obviously things like gas pressure without a container, it's explained. If the sky was a vacuum, second law of thermodynamics dictates entropy would increase, the gas would fill the space. The sky is not a vacuum. That's probably a little bit more concise than that video, but you get the general idea. So please check it out. If you've not watched one of them, watch them. They're a good gateway into each of those questions and answers. And I've heard other people in debate use the bare bones of the question and answer from those concise playlisted videos. So check them out. Hopefully share them. Share the playlist. Share an individual video with somebody that doesn't want a 10-minute video. They only want 2 minutes. Well, there's several for you to share with others. And hopefully that'll help my viewing metrics. Hopefully it'll widen the eyes of a few people that might not potentially sit through a full-on hour debate about this subject. So there we go. That's enough plugging of my housekeeping playlist. Please check it out.
Can you add today's story time to the molten iron core?
I mean, it's funny. The story of Thea and the story of the gas particles burning their bras. It's just a bit too farcical. There is no evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core or solid core.
Right. But if you add it to that short version of no, then it's at least makes it fun for everyone.
Especially as you got the theme music being whistled in the background while you're telling the story. I mean, it's great.
Okay. I'll think about it. I don't know. I dedicated an entire week of work, like solid morning, noon, and night, getting those edited, prepared, little cards at the end, published, premiered if they were a little bit longer, monitoring the chat, you name it. It was so much effort. And to be honest, that one video about the molten iron core, I'm smiling now because before it was even published, I played it to myself. I'm not gonna lie, I did play it over and over again, laughing when it got to the no. Okay then, moving on. The outro plays. I just thought it was really funny. I don't know why. Maybe I've just got a silly sense of humour, but to me it was very amusing.
That's
that was actually good because I think it was Arlo. It was just like, and I said no, and it was like, all right, that's it. I liked it.
That's exactly why the story time should be as an addendum to it. You don't have to go edit the original one. Just there's an addendum to this. Oh, okay, story time about the molten iron core.
I don't know. It's one of those not exactly the most common of stories. A lot of globeheads don't know the story of Thea, and I'd feel like I'm just perpetuating that nonsense. If you put too much effort in, you're like, and Thea struck out glancing blow. You put all your passion into it, and all you end up doing is programming some fundies, and they're like, actually, I didn't know that. Did you know that the moon was created from debris from Thea smashing into Earth, depositing its molten iron core into Earth's molten iron core? I didn't know that. And suddenly some guy's actually been programmed with that story like it's actually true. They completely ignore that true because they made it up themselves bit. I think
That's
some shorter
that's
vids
the
is a
beauty
great.
of it.
Sorry,
I
just
saw that on History Channel a long time ago. I don't know how people don't know that story.
Yeah, you'd be
That's a
surprised.
whole story.
A lot of people don't know how the moon was claimed to come into existence by their current rhetoric. It's changed, that's not the only. You can have many stories, Anyway, quick shout out to God Scalpel, who says, I think some shorter videos is a great idea. Like I say, God Scalpel, lots of people had asked me to do it. I have now done it, so check them out. It's a mixture. The longest video on there is probably 10 or 12 minutes. The majority of them are 2 or 3 minutes. So, check it out. Hopefully people will share the playlist. I don't often make playlists, to be honest, but that one was very specifically something that people had asked me for, so I've done it. I've put the effort in, so God damn it, share it. Another quick plug. So come Saturday, what day is it today? Is it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. So in 3 days' time, there will be a Ballbusters, a live Ballbusters. Now, although I often forget to plug the shows throughout the week, this time I'm going to, because I've got to practice what you preach in this regard, and I'm telling people our shows don't really reach a great deal of people when they're live. 2 or 3 weeks ago, they just weren't being seen live. Now they are being seen live, but then they vanish shortly afterwards. So, a lot of my debates that were getting 2,000 views, 1,800 views, 2,200 views in days gone by, sometimes more, 4,000, 7,000 views sometimes, if it's a good show, and gets a lot of shares because we're covering somebody that everybody hates or everybody loves, whichever way around you want to prefer it. But my point is that now that this live show will struggle to get 800, 900 views. The fact that there's 200 people now watching, which certainly wasn't the case a couple of weeks ago, is great. But my impression is that the only people who watch after the live show ends are people that have shared it and they've seen a link and come to it that way, because you just can't seem to find the show. And people keep telling me that, where did the show go? Or I was watching the show and then I couldn't find it afterwards, or things to that nature. And you're like, okay, so there is at least a reason that people are giving me in terms of why they're not watching the show, or leaving the show and then failing to find it when they come back to watch it later, or whatever. So for that reason, I'm pestering people more than ever to actually, genuinely click the share button. I know I say it in the intro every day, but, click the Facebook button, click the Twitter button, click the Discord button, and actually share the show, because those are the people that will actually come and watch it rather than them being in any way, shape or form recommended it after the fact, even if you're subscribed. Heartbreaking, as that is my predominant purpose in being here. I'm a YouTuber. Nevertheless, I'll keep my shout out going for you, Quantum Eraser, on Saturday. So be here or be Sphere, 7 p.m. UK time. I think it's 2 p.m. Central. Maybe I'm wrong with the time. Or is it Eastern? I always get the times confused. Nevertheless, around that sort of time. Who knows the time,
Yeah,
US time?
I think it's 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern.
1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK time. Ballbusters live! So be here or be Sphere on Saturday on the Quantum Eraser channel. What we will be covering is the top 3. Now, to promote this when he first mentioned it to me, I did a quick, literally 30 seconds a question, joke, top 3. Joke as in I didn't give any real substance to each of the questions, I just stated them. And a couple of people picked up on it and took it as their opportunity to debunk the the countdown top 3. It's like that was done just to rattle off the 3, in a list almost. And people literally took that as oh, I can debunk that. It's like, what? In a jokey countdown that you think is the substance of those 3? I don't think so. So that's what's going to be covered on Ballbusters on Saturday. So be here or be Sphere, Quantum Eraser channel, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK.
Well, good luck with that one, ballers. I mean, you can't even find the geometric horizon to start with. You're going to take on the top 3?
Well, I mentioned earlier that gravity doesn't even make it into the top 3, which it doesn't. Gravity is not a force. End quote. There you go. What do you want?
Wow.
It's not a force.
Who would have ever thought that in 2015, that gravity wouldn't make it a top 3? Now look at where it's fallen.
I don't know where it sits in the list, but it's certainly not top 3. I mean, we'll go through the top 3 now, I'm hoping, although we've just lost Paul and Righteous. But there we go. Hopefully people in the Discord will join in and pipe up. We shall see. But where do you want to start, 10th man?
Well, let's start with number 3. Coriolis.
Coriolis effect. Perfect. So this has been covered. Quite fortunate because we'll probably keep it a bit more concise as the number 3 entry. And Coriolis effect is the claim that Earth spins if we see Coriolis effect, a real effect, observed from a non-inertial spinning reference frame of something that is, let's use an example where something's stationary. So you're in a house with a roundabout, and you sat on a roundabout, and above you is a lighting fixture fixed to the ceiling. As you turn, the fixture will seem to come towards you and seem to move away. Seem to move towards you and seem to move away. It's not actually moving at all, it's fixed to the ceiling, but you're rotating underneath. Well, that seeming to come towards you and seeming to move away is Coriolis deflection, and not actual deflection. It's not actually moving, it's fixed. Now, for this to be translatable onto a globe Earth, then anything that's not attached to the spinning reference frame, so akin to the roundabout being the thing that's spinning and the fixture on the ceiling not being the thing attached to the spinning reference frame. Well, globe Earth is claimed to be a spinning reference frame, a non-inertial spinning reference frame, and when things leave that reference frame, i.e. a ball gets kicked on a football field, it seems to curve. In reality, it's travelling in a straight path, but because Earth is claimed to rotate underneath the ball, you observe an apparent deviation. That's what Coriolis effect is claimed to be if we observe it on Earth. The problem is, if Earth is rotating underneath that football when it leaves the non-inertial claimed to be spinning reference frame of a ball Earth, then a drone would only have to hover and you would observe Earth rotating underneath the drone. Likewise, an aeroplane travelling from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would have a 1.5 hour flight time because LA would be travelling towards the plane as the plane travelled towards it. If Earth has Coriolis effect, Earth is rotating underneath a ball, a drone, a helicopter, a hot air balloon, an aeroplane, a gyroscope, a pendulum. And if Earth is rotating underneath a drone, you would see it drift away from you at 1,000 miles an hour as soon as it left the non-inertial spinning claim to be Earth. Now, we don't observe this effect in anything. The only claims that are made in regards to this effect are claimed by the High Priest like Neil deGrasse Tyson because there's no one to challenge him, and with things like footballs that only remain in the air for a couple of seconds. Not enough time for anybody to give any consideration to the fact that an aeroplane stays in the air for a much longer period and absolutely doesn't have the Earth rotating underneath it, as claimed we see in the football. Now, to summarise the rebuttals. Their rebuttals are, firstly, Earth and atmosphere travel as one reference frame. If that was the case, obviously they need to assume Earth's spinning even when they're debunking their own argument. If that was the case, then we wouldn't have any Coriolis deflection. If Earth and atmosphere travel as one reference frame, we don't have the necessary ingredients of 2 reference frames to show us a deviation. This defence is usually used when we point out that planes aren't deviating. You don't see planes seem to curve from the ground while they actually take a straight path and Earth turns underneath them, giving you, the observer, a curved line that the plane is taking, when in reality it's travelling straight. Earth's just rotating underneath, because if Earth's rotating underneath, the flight times would be shortened when travelling west, and increased when travelling east. We don't observe this. Drones don't drift away from us at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Balloons don't just go up in the air and wait for continents to arrive to them. None of this actually happens, because Earth is not rotating. So the defence of one reference frame is an assertion we don't have the claimed proof Earth spins in the form of Coriolis deviation, because they're travelling as one reference frame. So that falls on its arse. The next thing to do is convolute the circling frame of reference, in this case a roundabout, with a fixture above it that seems to come towards you and seems to move away when you rotate underneath it. They take that lighting fixture and change that into something that's spinning, like a hurricane. Well, Coriolis effect is observed from a rotating reference frame. It's not you observing something actually rotate. Coriolis effect is an illusion. The lighting fixture doesn't move. It seems to because you rotate underneath it. So by comparison to a hurricane, the lighting fixture doesn't have to move. In fact, it doesn't move. When you throw a ball, the ball travels straight and only seems to curve, a la Neil deGrasse Tyson's example with a football. The ball travels straight and the Earth rotates underneath, according to him. Of course, Earth isn't rotating underneath planes, though, and they would definitely exemplify this effect if it was to be observed. We don't have an Earth that rotates underneath anything, and the only rebuttal is to confuse an audience member and bamboozle a debate opponent into an assertion that we have Earth spinning without the effect. So beg the question that Earth's spinning whilst defying the very thing that's claimed to prove that proves the spin, and that would be Coriolis effect, a deviation observed from the ground when something leaves a non-inertial spinning reference frame of a claim to be spinning Earth. We don't observe the effect, Earth isn't spinning. A defence that we wouldn't see any deviation is to defend a claim that we see deviation proving Earth spins by saying we don't see it. Anything anyone else wants to add to Coriolis effect?
I like to, because they love it so much, right? I want to go back to their citation that they like to drop on us, because they like to tell us that we don't understand the Coriolis effect, but yet the citations that they use to try to prove their effect kind of disagree with the narratives that they use. So I posted it in Master B. I don't know if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So to reiterate the causes of this supposed effect that we're supposed to see on Earth, right? So here's a citation from thought.co or thoughtco.com or whatever. So the object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth is turning beneath it. Right? Causes of the Coriolis. The main cause of the Coriolis effect is Earth's rotation. As the Earth spins in a counterclockwise direction on its axis, anything flying or flowing over a long distance above its surface is deflected. This occurs because as something moves freely above the Earth's surface, the Earth moves east under the object at a faster speed. So key points of this are the Earth is supposed to be moving underneath objects in the air, which they like to avoid like the plague, apparently, because that's not what's happening. So they have to try to conflate as to why we don't see this effect that's supposed to actually exist and prove that the Earth is spinning. Well, here it is, guys. This is your citation telling you your Earth is supposed to be spinning underneath these objects, showing us Coriolis. So the next time you guys want to continue to say, oh, the Earth's not actually supposed to be rotating underneath, Zenik, yeah, enjoy that. And I'll pull this out on you each time to reiterate that point. I'm done.
Yeah, they need a Coriolis deflection. That's the thing that's supposed to prove Earth spins. So all I need to do is say, here you go. You say Earth spins at a rate of 15 degrees an hour underneath a gyroscope. That's your claimed proof Earth spins. Earth rotates under the fixed frame of the gyro.
I think it's important to acknowledge the cause of Coriolis is what we're holding their feet to. The causes of Coriolis.
Yeah, to have a Coriolis effect, you need something like the roundabout, with you sat on it, spinning underneath of the things that aren't spinning on the roundabout. That's what Coriolis effect is. It's really easy to show. All you need is a roundabout. Throw a ball up in the air, it doesn't come back to your hand, it seems to curve off behind you. Well, actually it's just going straight up and straight down again. The position that you let go of the ball, it'll go up from there and down from there. If someone was watching it, it would go up and down, but you continue to rotate underneath. And to have a Coriolis effect on Earth, you're on a spinning Earth, and Earth's rotating underneath. Bullets, balls, drones, helicopters, hot air balloons, aeroplanes. But we don't observe that effect. So they justify it by saying, well, we wouldn't expect to see this claim to be proof of Earth spinning Coriolis deflection, we wouldn't see it because blah, 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 blah. All the time begging the question that Earth's spinning while they say why it doesn't show deflection. The very thing that's supposed to prove it is spinning.
Well said.
Dun 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 dun. Down one at number 2. It's gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, we have it.
So let's just lay it out concisely. The sky is not a vacuum. We have a law of nature which dictates that if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. We wouldn't have any gas to breathe if the sky was a vacuum. The gas would expand in all directions to fill the available volume it has to fill. Shout out to Guns of Navarone RMP. Ballers wearing earplugs here because hearing the truth terrifies them. Thumbs up. Thank you very much for the super chat. Space is a violation of several laws of nature. The sky is not a vacuum. Anybody got anything to add?
Nope.
You want to weasel gravity in there just for the sake of it?
Well, I think we should have you talk about gas behavior.
Okay.
Oh, Nathan, you wanted to repeat my insert I gave about that earlier? About how the bending of space-time the gravity bending of space-time may be at equilibrium with the gas pressure expanding, causing the effective gas to remain in place, opposing the outer space vacuum. Makes sense, right?
Well, for gas to be in equilibrium, you mean it's got an equal and opposite force opposing it? Well, gravity is not a force.
Well, technically, it's just the bending of space-time. So, yeah, it's bending. It's like it's moving, but at the same time, space is moving it in the opposite direction.
How does one bend
Wait,
time?
hold on. I have a question. Something that's not a force actually cause a force?
Well, that's kind of the trick, isn't it? They suggest that instead of physical displacement within space, it is space that displaces. Therefore, effectively, there would not have to be a force because space itself would be the thing, bending, moving in order to cause the displacement effectively. It's very tricky.
That's fascinating. Gravity, even if you accept that it's real, it isn't. Gravity's not a force. But let's say we take the assumption that gravity is a force and apply that to our world. Entropy will still increase. That is a law of nature. Not the bending of a conceptual medium, I might add. A law of nature. Entropy will increase. The gas will fill the space. You won't show me any demonstrations of gas pressure without a container by way of a force called gravity. Gravity is not a force, and you can't have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container.
What is a pressure gradient?
It's a delta of gas pressure. So first you have a container, then you can achieve gas pressure, then you can achieve a gas pressure gradient.
But we have what the gradient come from? Where is it coming from?
From gas pressure. I just explained that 10 seconds ago. I'll try again.
No,
first you have a container. That's the necessary antecedent for gas pressure. Then you have gas pressure. So first container, then gas pressure. Then you can have the delta of gas pressure, which is a gas pressure gradient. Notice the words gas pressure are in there before the word pressure. So you can't have a gas pressure gradient without gas pressure, and you can't have gas pressure without a container. And the globe Earth is claimed to be an open system in a sky vacuum, a pressurized system hurtling through a sky vacuum. That's a violation of a law of nature. Entropy would increase and the gas would fill the space. You can't have gas pressure without a container. So I don't know why you're talking about gas pressure gradients. You definitely need a container for a gas pressure gradient.
What is the cause for the gas pressure gradient in the container?
Well, we have gases being created at ground level. They taught you this in 8th grade geography about the gas cycles. Yeah, if you produce something at ground level, obviously that's going to be where the greatest amount of it is. Gets less as you go up. Like if you boil a kettle, you put your finger right over the nozzle where the steam's being produced and it'll burn your finger. If you put your finger about a metre above it, there's less of it. It's dissipated. Surprising that. Gas dissipates, expands in all directions to fill the available volume. But obviously, if you're pumping out more and more at ground level, there's going to be more at ground level than there is higher up. Obviously, it's going to make its way up. You've got air at the top of Everest. It's just not a great deal of it's being produced up there. So there's less of it up there. It dissipates. But to have the gas pressure form a gradient, you'd still need the antecedent of a container. And the globe Earth reification religion has this ridiculous idea that we're in an open system and that open system is surrounded by a vacuum. An available volume for the gas to fill. It wouldn't form pressure at all. If we were on a sphere in a sky vacuum, we wouldn't have gas pressure, let alone a gas pressure gradient. It wouldn't be able to form. It would just all disappear into space. It's called entropy.
So you're saying a gas is created from the ground, at the ground, from what?
No, it's created in midair. No, yes, it's created at the ground. They taught you this in 8th grade geography. Gas cycles, mate.
Recycles?
Yeah, cycles.
No, I didn't learn that.
Things that
We can
things
tell.
that create gas tend to be on the ground,
It's like
trees and us, and
Said he didn't learn this. Yeah, we know you didn't learn this. We're having to educate you in this now. You didn't pay attention. Maybe you were off graffitiing or snogging girls. Who knows? But I did actually pay attention. And gas cycles were definitely taught to other people during their general comprehensive education. I appreciate you don't know this. That's a shame. But gases are definitely produced at ground level. Not high up in the middle of the sky. There's nothing to produce them there. So the higher you go, the less there is, because they're not being produced higher up, are they? They're being produced at ground level. So that kind of makes logical sense, but it doesn't really address the fact that you'd need a container for the gas to press upon. Because obviously if it's just being produced, pumped out of the ground, it starts heading upwards, and it can just keep on going forever. How are you ever going to achieve a gradient? It would all just dissipate into the available volume of the sky vacuum out of space. It would just fill that space. Like natural law dictates. It's really easy to show. It's natural law.
I still don't get it. What creates the gas? What is creating the gas?
Sorry, did you not learn about the water cycle? You know, rain falls, sun heats it up, it turns into a gas, floats up higher and higher, and then cycles back down again? You didn't learn about this.
I don't have water on my floor, and the pressure there is lower than my head.
Sorry, do you
that?
understand that the water that's creating steam on your floor isn't creating it in the middle of your room? It's creating it on the ground and then turns into a gas, which then makes its way upwards. You don't appreciate that's what's occurring. You think that's wrong. I'm answering your question. There's no necessary reason to answer your question beyond a demonstration of a lack of comprehensive education, which is amusing. You were the same guy that gave us an almost actual location. So that's funny that you don't have this education while you question us about it continually. We're telling you over and over again that gases are produced at ground level. That's correct. And obviously, if they're being produced at ground level, they're going to thin out as you go up. Like with my kettle example. You haven't accepted any of this stuff. You're still questioning me. Now, I point out that the reason we talk about gas pressure at all is because without the container, there can be no pressure. That's a quote from a chap called Conspiracy Cats. He's a globe-tard. He shares his pain with people like Haunted House on a video where he describes how terrifying it would be to realise you've been lied to about these sorts of things. Nevertheless, his quote stands, "Without the container, there can be no pressure," end quote, Conspiracy Cats 2019. So yeah, you'd need a container to have gas pressure to form a gas pressure gradient, which was your question. So if you're a fundy, and I know pretty much already that you are, where's this gas forming pressure? What's it pressing on at the top?
I don't get it. Is my floor creating gas?
If you spill water on it, yeah.
There is air coming out of my floor, you're saying. If I cover it, I will see a balloon.
Mate, is this really going to be how I round out my show, educating someone in basic comprehensive water cycle? Really? You want me to spend the next 5 minutes of my live show educating you on how gas is produced at ground level, not in the middle of the sky?
I think he's just kind of being a clown.
I don't know.
Saying gases are coming out of the middle of his floor. Like, that's what we're saying. Like, dude, you're not understanding that most of the gas that's here is produced at ground level. Doesn't mean gas is coming out of your kitchen floor.
Right.
Are you all right?
Just look at what the average compounds of the air, nitrogen, oxygen, is it CO2? All of those are very easily explained as to where they're produced. It's always, it ends up in the ground, then some plant or something does with it, and then it interacts, and all the three all just are intermixing, and it all happens at ground level. And now CO2 is even like the more heavy gas, so it will be very easily assimilated, as it were. And so it works because of the natural relative densities even between the gases. It all works with nature. It's incredible.
Yeah, he just asked if gas is coming out of his floor, so I don't even think he's that able to comprehend what you're saying. Dude, do you understand that when we breathe out gas? Breathe in gas? When we breathe out gas? You understand that, right? Most people breathe out gas.
I don't have plants in my house.
Most people are at ground level.
And the pressure down.
I don't know. I can't hear what he's saying.
I don't know. It's going to be a reassertion of his claim. I don't doubt he'll completely ignore every word we've said and then just reassert his claim again. Let's see if I'm wrong.
I'm not reasserting a claim. I have a high pressure at my feet, a low pressure at my head. I don't have plants. There is no water on the ground. Where the
Dude, if you're in a house, open the door, walk outside. Do you see any trees? Do you see any foliage of any kind? Can you answer that, please, without the floor being your next answer? Yes or no?
I don't
There's
even
no
know.
trees outside.
He's trying to emphasize the gradient, because
I asked him the question, Arwen. I
Right.
like the silence. You open your door, what do you see?
Yes, I
Tell
said
us.
there are trees.
Oh, so there are trees outside your house. So since gas moves in all directions, do you think it came in your house somehow?
With that, I'll say the continue of this conversation will take place on the Nathan Oakley channel. So if you are watching on Nathan Oakley's premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this is where I bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Again, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!